The Louie T Network is powered by MusicHead University. MusicHeads, classes in session. Turn me up. Enroll on YouTube now. Link is in the description.
Who else could it be? Me, your man, Louie T. Welcome to the Command Post Live. You know what it is. Post up. Take command. Of course, am your Commander-in-Chief, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. Really interesting show tonight as we continue to power towards the 2024 NFL Draft. These are the most anxious moments as we get closer and closer. We are officially 2 weeks away from day one of the 2024 NFL Draft. And it's an important day, obviously, for the Commanders because they're going to select their quarterback of the future. And we hope a guy that's going to change the fortunes of this franchise for many years to come. We've been in the quarterback wilderness for what seems like an eternity. There were brief, glimmers of hope with Robert Griffin III in 2012 and Kirk Cousins 15 through 17. But the reality was we've never really left the quarterback wilderness. And we're hoping that this is the end all be all, that this guy is going to come in and put us in a position where we don't have to think about quarterback for the next decade plus. That's the hope, at least. And that may not be the only thing that they do in day number one. Obviously, we've talked about this at least 3 or 4 times on this show. There is a realistic possibility that they could go back into the first round for someone. Now, the prevailing thought, tackle, right? And I've been pretty steady with if there's going to be a guy that falls at the tackle position in this draft potentially that Washington could be keeping a watchful eye on, it's Amarius Mims, the tackle out of Georgia. Not a ton of tape, enough of it that it tantalizes you. Great size, good build and frame throughout, but just not enough tape, right? And then the injury, during the combine stopped him from really working out. And so he could be a guy that is very intriguing, that could fall, but has all the traits and the size and everything that you're looking for. That's a guy that I could see hitting the 20s and Washington getting a bit antsy and maybe going up and trying to get him. But outside of that, who knows what's going to happen. But with that said, I want to talk about the draft itself, because I think this is going to kind of help shape and mold what Washington ultimately decides to do in this draft. Is kind of looking at it from an individual position perspective, meaning you look at each position, you figure out where the value is, the true value of that position is in the draft, and that's going to help dictate when you need to pull the trigger on a particular player at a particular position. While receiver is a very deep, group throughout, you may feel the need to try to grab one early, but again, you may be faced with a decision. Do I take the tight end or do I take the receiver? Well, it's, to me, a no-brainer if you're sitting there at the top of the second round and the tight end you want is there, or you're sitting there at 40 and the tight end you want is there. He's not going to be there at 67 unless you plan on coming back up. You may have to trade up to get him. You just take him at 40, right? And the conversation may be tight end or receiver at 40. Well, there's plenty of receivers. So you don't need to make a rush decision or some kind of decision that could alter the way you want to go about your business. Now, there are other options, and we're going to talk about that tonight. Speaking of which, let's take a look. Man, I'm going to tell you right now what the Commanders right now are doing with their visits. Very intriguing stuff. I am super impressed with the guys that they're bringing in now. They told us, okay, and I love when I'm not lied to, even though I don't mind a little white lie here or there, okay? I love when someone tells me, hey, this is the plan, and then I'm watching that plan unfold in front of my face. That's a beautiful feeling. When they say, hey, we're going to get faster. We're going to get more physical. We're going to be more athletic. And that's going to be the name of the game. We're going to be a fast, a physical, ferocious team. We're going to look to upgrade speed at all levels, at all positions. And then you're seeing the guys that they're bringing in for these visits. And again, I have to caution you. Usually visits don't turn into guys getting selected. We see it all the time. But this is a new group. And so I'm going to wait to reserve judgment. But obviously, just because you bring a guy in for a visit doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get that player in the draft. That said, these visits, these visits have been fan-effing-tastic, to say the least. The guys that they have coming in for visits or have already had come in for visits, I'm impressed. I'm impressed. Tickle me pink or whatever hell color you want to tickle me. Burgundy, gold, red, orange, green. I love it. Let's take a look at the list, shall we, of these players. We've gone through this list multiple times before, so I don't need to go through it with a fine-tooth comb. I really only want to talk about the additions that have been made to this list. This list, the last time we looked at it, which I believe was Monday, if not Monday, Tuesday, it was 14 names long. Now the list has been extended. I think it's 19 now. Let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. So it's 19 names long. Now, as you can see, the Commanders starting to really get busy as the draft nears. Now, the 5 new names to this list, and I'm going to go through all 5 of them. 2 of them I really don't need to go through all that much. But Austin Booker, edge rusher out of Kansas. We'll come back to him. They added J.J. McCarthy to this list. I don't need to go through his profile. We've done that ad nauseum already. They added, as you can see, Drake May to the list. We talked about that briefly on last night's show. So they're going to have the 2 quarterbacks in that they'll be deciding from, more likely than not, at 2 next week. Monday, Tuesday, Jaden Daniels. Wednesday, Thursday, Drake May. So that will be, I think, the last of their top 30 visits, which will be something to keep an eye on. You're going to have all kinds of comments coming out, all kinds of reports. Don't ride the roller coaster. All right. If you can't handle the roller coaster and you think you're going to vomit, don't ride the roller coaster. Get off. Okay. Don't ride the roller coaster. Don't check. Well, I know they're meeting with Jaden Daniels today. Let's see what they say. Don't do that. What are you doing that for? Don't do it. Just relax. Okay? Just relax. So we don't need to talk about the 2 quarterbacks. We've done that enough, right? We don't need to talk about J.J. McCarthy. We've done that enough. But Austin Booker is a name that was added to the list since the last time we talked about it. Roger Rosengarden, who had a tremendous combine, is added to the list, the offensive tackle out of Washington. And then the last guy is Jared Wiley, tight end out of TCU. So we'll talk about those 3 prospects here quickly, and then we'll get into the draft as a whole. Starting with Austin Booker, the edge rusher out of Kansas. Man, do I love this guy's tape. I mean, god damn. It's so what they've effectively done for me, I can't speak for any of you out there. What they've effectively done is they've shown me the blueprint of what it is they're actually looking for. All right. They're looking for long, wiry, athletically gifted pieces that they can move around along the defensive line. I think it's no secret that Dan Quinn likes his, edge rushers light, athletic, quick, fast, and explosive. Guys that can play on the opposite side of the line of scrimmage, guys that can create havoc. Now, with that comes, the inability sometimes to stop the run consistently. Guys get blown out of gaps. We saw it against the Packers in the playoffs with the Cowboys, but they don't have Daron Payne and Jonathan Allen on the interior. That was the problem that the Cowboys always had, is they didn't have the mass inside to really be stout against the run at the point of attack when you get all of those bodies, when you get Michael Parsons and DeMarcus Lawrence is pretty stout, but when you get the Dante Fowler Jr.'s and the Dorrance Armstrongs in there, and Dorrance is playing defensive tackle because you're trying to have as much athleticism on the field, you're not stopping the run with that unit. You're going to get run all over, and that's what happened to them against the Packers and in certain games throughout that season. The Arizona Cardinals game comes to mind as well, where they couldn't stop the run. And so a guy like Austin Booker, you're talking about a guy that's 6'4.5", 240 pounds. So again, right there, all you need to know about his size. He's not a big guy, but he's got a frame that is going to end up picking up more weight. He's going to get bigger, stronger. But when I tell you, and we're going to talk edge rushers next week, right? Next week, we're going to talk about that position in particular, because the more I see their list, the more I'm inclined to think that edge rusher is going to be a position that they try to add to this roster at some point in the draft. Now, they're all over the place with the guys that they've brought in for visits. A guy like Chop Robinson, as we mentioned already, the last time we talked about this list, that's a fringe first-round pick. That's a guy that's probably going to go in the first round more likely than not. We won't have a shot at him unless they do something drastic like trade up. But he could fall out of the first round because he's extremely raw. And we'll talk about the edge rusher position tonight and some of the quirks about that position in the draft and why you could see a guy like Chop Robinson potentially fall to the second round, but it's highly unlikely because of some of the things we'll talk about tonight. That said, he's more of a first, early second round guy. But then a Javonte Jean-Baptiste out of Notre Dame by way of Ohio State, he's more of a fifth, sixth round guy, right? He's a project guy. So, I think you're going to see Marshawn Nealon come off the board somewhere in the mid rounds, third round, fourth round. I think he's more of a third round pick personally. So they're all over the map. But Austin Booker, Austin Booker, guys. If you haven't watched Austin Booker, do yourself a favor. Check out Austin Booker. And again, he fits the prototype of what they've been looking for. You look at Javonte Jean-Baptiste. This is a 6'5", 238, 240, pound guy. Not big. Same thing with Austin Booker, 6'4.5", 240 pounds. You look at Chop Robinson. You're talking about 6'3", 6'4", 245 pounds-ish. Again, another guy that's not that big, but very athletic, right? So they're showing you what the DNA profile looks like, okay? Booker is a guy that stood up in a two-point stance at Kansas, also put his hand in the dirt. Surprisingly, I was surprised to find that when I turned on the tape, he actually wasn't that bad against the run. He stood up tall against these tackles, all right? He stood up tall against these tight ends, these pulling guards. He did a good job of staying in his gap, being physical, discarding, getting to the ball carrier. I was actually blown away by the way that he was able to stand up at the point of attack and be physical and stand his ground. Now, that said, the NFL is a different animal, and at 240, they might blow you out of there. But he did really well, man. I was shocked. But the thing that really surprised me, because Austin Booker is one of these dudes, he's extremely raw. Really just getting started as an edge rusher, right? You could tell that there's not a lot of production. There's not a lot of game reps and experience. And he probably could have gone back to school for another year if he wanted to. I think we're talking about, if I'm not mistaken, we're probably talking about a redshirt sophomore here, right? Super young, right? But with that said, the amount of skill and twitchiness that he shows in being such a raw prospect is insane, right? So when you watch, if you want to watch one game, like the one game to me that just screams, oh my God, we got to draft this guy, is the Texas game. Go watch him against the Longhorns this year. And what you will find in that game is this guy has a bag of tricks. He's got a speed rush, which that's his calling card because he's explosive and dynamic. He's got a motor that does not quit. The amount of effort that you see in that game is utterly ridiculous, right? He's got a speed to power transfer, right? And then he's got a nasty inside move. I think it's his best move right now. Is he scares you with the speed, and then he's got this inside rip move where he jumps inside, and that's hard to stop. And then he put the cherry on top. I hadn't seen this all game, and then out of nowhere, he drops a beautiful spin on me. I said, oh, hell, take me now. Take me now. Okay, so watching this raw prospect do all of the things that he did, and this is a guy that, again, super raw, undersized. I think he's going to go quickly and I'll tell you why later on in the process. I think he's going to go relatively quickly, but I would love to get my hand. I would love the Commanders to draft Austin Booker, and there's a chance he's there in the third round. Okay, there's a chance because of all the things I mentioned. There are going to be some teams that overlook him, not big enough, size-wise. Not enough production, etc., etc. All it takes is one team to see what I saw, and trust me, they're not blind. You got to be blind to not see the talent here. Somebody's probably gonna take him before we get a chance in the third round. But I'm saying if he's there at 67, I'd pull the trigger in a heartbeat, and I wouldn't think twice about it. I know we've talked receiver at 67. I know we've talked tight end if we hadn't taken one already. We talked tackle if we hadn't taken one. You're going to take something at 36. You're going to take something at 40. Some of these needs will already have been addressed by the time you get to 67. If edge rusher isn't one of them, man, Austin Booker, man. So, that one blew me away, right? Roger Rosengarden is a guy that tore up the combine. Ran a 4.7 something 40, I think it was. I might be overstating it. He ran a sub 540. I know that. And there weren't many tackles in this year's draft class that did so. He might have ran a 4.97, and I might be tripping. But I know he ran a 4 something, And I just remember he had a really good day at the combine. I came back impressed, but I can't get over the Michigan game, right? Like, he's the right tackle for the Washington Huskies, and he got baptized in that game. And part of the reason that Michael Penix Jr. had such a lousy game is because he wasn't comfortable. Part of the reason he wasn't comfortable is because Roger Rosengarten got his ass whooped. I mean, and this was an epic ass whooping that he took in that national championship game. He was a turnstile, and it gave me flashbacks of Andrew Wiley, and I had PTSD, and I was like, no mas. I don't want any more, right? So I see his name, and I'm like, I'm good. Thank you, but no thanks. Yeah, he's an athlete. Yeah, he did some good things, but I'm good. I'll pass. I can go somewhere. I don't want anybody that takes an ass whooping like that. And look, you're going to have good days. You're going to have bad days, but you're not allowed to have those types of games on that type of stage against that level of talent, because that's the level of talent you're going to be seeing on a weekly basis. And like I said, he got his ass whooped in that national championship game. Tons of holding penalties because he had to hold, or else his quarterback was going to get decapitated because he got beat so bad. He looked like indecisive on what to do with these twists and stunts. He got beat with the blitz. He had no idea where it was coming from. He got beat in one-on-one matchups. He was awful. So I'm going to pass on Roger Rosengarten. Thanks, but no thanks. And then there's Jared Wiley, the tight end out of TCU. So we've talked tight end a little bit, not a ton, and all we ever talk about when we talk tight end is Jatavion Sanders. And the those of you who are familiar with this group, you'll bring up, Ben Sinnott, or you'll bring up the kid from Colorado State, right? Holker, right? Dallin Holker. And so those are some of the names that people keep throwing out. And there's some other names in here. I was big on the Penn State kid after the combine. I've since cooled off a bit on him. Not that he's not capable, but I myself am sort of in between on what exactly this team is looking for at the tight end position. And then it dawned on me. Jatavion Sanders is a guy that I think they're very interested in. Obviously, he was one of the first names on this list. When we first took a look at this thing, when it was 3 or 6 names long, Jatavion Sanders' name was already on the list, right? So that tells me they're looking for a massive, athletically gifted tight end. They're looking for a massive athletic upgrade at the tight end position. Excuse me. And Sanders gives you that. But you know who else gives you that? Probably even more so than Jatavion Sanders? Jared Wiley, right? And so I went back to my combine notes just to how did I miss? I don't think he had a great day. Now, part of the process of the combine is, you got to block, you got to move the sled and all of that stuff. And how did you look? Did you look fluid out there? And Wiley just didn't necessarily jump off the screen at me, but he did run a very fast 40. He ran a 4.62 40. Now, I don't know, how your brain operates, but let me explain to you what fast is for tight ends. Anything sub 4.7 for a tight end is very, very fast. Anything approaching 4.5 is very, very, very fast. Anything sub 4.5 for a tight end is blazing fast, okay? So when you think about some of the best tight ends in the NFL right now, a lot of these guys, Mark Andrews, that's like a 4.67 40, right? Travis Kelce, when he came out, like 4.62 40, 4.63, something like that. So you think of some of these tight ends and you're thinking, man, he must run a 4.5. No, he doesn't. No, he doesn't. George Kittle runs a 4.5, right? But not a lot of guys do, right? Most of these guys run 4.6s. Some of them even run 4.7s, and you wouldn't even know it. Jared Wiley runs a 4.62 40. And I went back in my notes, and then I went and watched some tape, and I said, well, I'll be. Now, with Wiley, he's more of a move tight end, right? He's a chess piece guy. So don't ask him to inline block anybody, okay? He'll try. It's not for a lack of effort, but he's not going to, wow you in that part. He'll put his body in front of somebody, and sometimes that's all you need, right? Just don't olay. They used him as a H-back. They used him in line at times. But the thing that they took advantage of with him a lot of times was they just flexed him out, used him as a big receiver, and let him kick ass that way. And then you get him going up the seam. I watched him cook Baylor's ass. Absolutely cook the Baylor Bears. Caught a little seam ball for 81 yards. Nobody could catch him. And that's when you saw the speed. I said, shit, look at him go, right? He caught that bitch up the seam. There wasn't a defender in sight, and he turned on the Jets. He's like, y'all ain't catching me. And so that's a legit 4.62. And he's got some shakes. He's got a little bit of movement to him, right? Got really good hands. Got a huge catch radius. He's 6'6", 248. So the catch radius is there. Soft hands, catches just about everything you throw in his direction. Had some good production this year, albeit 173 of it came in one game against Baylor. But still, I was shocked to see his production because generally when you see a guy like Jared Wiley, who you expect to go somewhere in the 5th round, probably 4th, 5th round, more likely than not 5th round for him, you're expecting, 247 yards on 22 catches and 2 touchdowns. Like, that's the kind of shit I was expecting. And then I to my surprise, I walked into like 48 catches, 564, and 8 touchdowns. I was like, wait a minute. Huh? Well, let me see what we're working with now. Okay, now I'm excited. You got my attention. Now let's see what we're working with. Turned on the tape, and I said, we could use a guy like this. Think Mark Andrews, Okay, think Mark Andrews. And I think about Mark Andrews because I loved him. Go back and watch some of my draft assessment of him coming out. I loved Mark Andrews coming out of Oklahoma. And he ran a 4.67 or something like that when he came out. And he could catch the football. They moved him around. He couldn't block worth a damn. Okay, that was a knock on Mark Andrews. He can't block any damn body. Don't ask him to block, but he'll catch anything. Okay. Jarrett Wiley is being placed in that same type of box, so to speak. I think he's more willing of a blocker than Mark Andrews was coming out. And I really believe that this is a guy you can get in the 5th round. And we got 2 5th-round picks. I believe we got 2 5th-rounders. Yes, we have 2 5th-round picks because we don't have a 6th-round pick. Or is it just 1 5th-rounder? And yes, it's 2 5th, and I think there's 1 7th. Let me think. 1 in the 1st, 2 in the 2nd, 3 in the 3rd. That's 6. Yes, 2 in the 5th, 1 in the 7th. So, I'd love to if he's there. And again, I'm looking at him as a Jatavion Sanders fallback option. I think that's how they view him as well, right? Is that if Sanders isn't there, we need another athlete. We need another athlete. And there are going to be other tight ends, but they don't move like Wiley does. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. Wiley, go watch it. If you don't believe me, don't believe me. Okay? I wouldn't lie to you, but go watch it yourself. Go watch the Baylor game. Okay? Again, usually when I recommend a player or I say, hey, I usually give you the game that if you want the best of what this guy offers, go watch this game. I remember once upon a time when I was banging that table for Alvin Kamara, and I was like, look, if y'all don't believe me, this guy's a 1st-round running back because I wanted Washington to take him that year. You don't believe me? Go turn on the Texas A&M tape. Then come back and tell me I'm lying. If I'm lying, I'm flying. I usually have a game, right? For Jarrett Wiley, turn on the Baylor game. Just go turn on the Baylor game and then come back and tell me, damn, I'm not interested. At least you're intrigued, if nothing else, after watching that game. And he blocks a little bit too, right? As I mentioned, they put him at H-back. They put him in line as a Y at times, right? But they flex him out. They put him all the way out at receiver, right? They put him in the slot and let him work there too. And he can move, man. You want to get the best of Austin Booker? Turn on the Texas game. You get everything you need to see in one game. Everything you need to see. One game. So, those were the additions. I love what they're doing. And you will be hard-pressed looking up and down this list. And I know a lot of you haven't watched a lot of these players. Stands for maybe 2 or 3 guys on this list. You will be hard-pressed to find non-athletes on this list. Everybody on this list can move. I don't love Rod Gaddison. Okay. He's not as athletically gifted and doesn't fit the athletic profile that I would think they're looking for. But again, he checks off that size box because at the corner position, as I mentioned to you the last time we talked about this, they're clearly looking for size. Clearly, that's one of the requisites that they're looking for right now is they're looking to add some size at the cornerback position. I'm more intrigued by, can you find me a size speed combination? If not, just give me some speed and we'll figure out the rest later. Okay. If you're as good at coaching up dudes as you say you are, then give me the guys that can run. Because one of our biggest issues is we just haven't had corners that can run. Going all the way back to Josh Norman. Bashad Breeland, even when he was in his bag, he was good at covering guys like Des Bryant who couldn't run. But as soon as you put Antonio Brown on his ass, he was getting cooked. We never have had a true speed merchant cornerback. The fastest guy we've had is Kendall Fuller. That's the fastest dude we've ever had at corner here in the last 7-8 years. We just don't do speed for whatever reason at the cornerback position. We've cycled through the Benjamin St. Juices and as I mentioned, Josh Norman, and Emmanuel Forbes was supposed to be that guy. I think he's a build-up speed dude. I think he needs a runway. He's not a guy that quick twitch, turn, flip his hips, and 2 steps he's running at top speed. He's not an accelerate guy. He's a build-up guy. You can run by him. Okay? Yeah, he ran a 4.37 because he had a ramp. He had a runway, and then once he gets up there to top speed, now he's moving. By that time, he's getting cooked. So I want a guy that can run, that has acceleration, that's twitchy. These dudes on this list, Elijah Jones has a little bit of that, but he's not super twitchy. But we'll see what they do. I'm just going to trust the process. But I like what they're doing on this list, man. This is a fire list, if we're being honest. Better than the shit that the last group was putting out. You know, this list is respectable. I like this a lot. I like it a lot. So anyway, I digress. Let's get to the conversation that I want to have tonight. And I kind of talked about this and alluded to this earlier in the show, which is I want to talk about this draft and the positions in particular and how it relates to Washington, because I think when you have a sense of how you feel about this draft, and again, how I feel and how they feel might be it's going to probably be 2 totally different ways about this draft. Because ultimately, they know what they're looking for. I don't. I can only assume and guess. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through each position. There are 10 positions in this draft. I'm going to go through all 10, and tell you where they rank for me in terms of the depth, the quality, the quantity, et cetera, and their overall standing for me in the draft. And then I'll tell you what I think about the position itself, right? And then we can kind of talk about how it relates to Washington. So the best position in this year's draft, so the number 1 position in this year's draft is wide receiver. I've made it abundantly clear how I feel about the receiver position. Most people have kind of echoed those sentiments about the receiver position and what it entails this year. And I just had a video last night. If you haven't had a chance to check it out, got plenty of time. But I talked about the receiver position, gave you my top 7. I opened the floor to see what everybody thought about, the position and any other guys that they may like. And, if I had watched those players and I had them ranked, I could talk about them. But to me, the receiver position offers you not only quality, but also quantity throughout the entire draft. I think you can I wouldn't be shocked if someone unearths a gem in the 6th or 7th round of this draft. It's that deep of a class of receivers. Again, we saw it, and I said this last night, time and time again, you see teams find a 5th, 6th round gem because they know what they're looking for. And sometimes that's all it is fit. We talk about that all the time. Puka Nacua is a great example last year with the Rams. They knew what they were looking for. They drafted him, and look what he ended up doing. And there's so many guys that kind of fit that bill and that mold of a guy that goes in the later rounds that ends up being a big-time playmaker at the NFL level. So I think this draft offers you a lot of opportunities to upgrade your receiver position and do it at a fraction of the cost, right? Because in the NFL, receivers cost. It's not a cheap position. So that's why it's number 1. Not only are you getting high-level talent early in this draft, but often in this draft, throughout this draft. You're going to get guys in the third and the fourth round that I think can come in and be, day one starters, guys that can come in the third and fourth round that can be, day one complementary pieces. May not start for you, but when you get to season's end, you look up 47 catches for 527 yards and 4 touchdowns. That's a damn good number 3 option in an offense for a rookie, especially, right? So I think you're going to have a lot of opportunities for that to take place. The number 2 position in this draft is O-line. And to me, it offers quality early and quantity throughout. And remember, when you're talking O-line, you're not just talking tackles. You're talking about all 5 positions up front, or really all 3 positions: center, guard, and tackle. So in this draft, I think the quality is early. And that's most drafts when you're talking offensive line. When they say it's a deep offensive line draft, they're more so talking about guards and centers and interior offensive linemen. As you continue to go through the draft, you can find a lot of those. In this particular draft, they're talking tackles too. You can go into the second, into the third, possibly into the fourth, and still find you a starting caliber tackle. More likely than not, as you venture into that late third, into the fourth round, you're probably now looking at swing tackles and guys that can come in and compete for a roster spot on the back end. But still, in most drafts, after you get through the first 2 rounds, it's a wrap. Tackle is always a while supplies last position. And in this particular draft, not only are there a bevy of tackles, you also get interior offensive linemen crashing the party. Guys like Graham Barton, who's going to probably go in the first round. Cooper Beebe is going to be an early second to mid-second round pick. JPJ could go in the first round. More likely than not, he'll end up going somewhere in the second round. So you got interior offensive linemen, Dominic Pooney, guys like that are really good, solid interior offensive linemen that are going to crash the party. And then you got a bunch of tackles. I think the value for the tackle position, if you're looking for something elite, is obviously at the top of the draft, right? Is in the first round. Maybe somebody slips and slides, you get a little bit of that spillage early second. But after that, I think most of the exceptional talent is gone. I'd even take it a step further and tell you that I don't think there's a prospect in this year's draft that's better than Peter Skoronski, who was the number 1 offensive lineman in last year's draft. Now, the only thing that knocked Peter Skoronski back, and I think he ended up going 11 or so to Tennessee. The only thing that knocked him back was he's a guy that projected to go to guard, right? That's what knocked Peter. If Peter Skoronski was a bona fide tackle with his skill set, he would have gone top 5. So I don't think anybody in this draft is as technically sound and ready to go out of the packaging as Peter Skoronski was last year. So that tells you that while the quality is solid, it's not high level. There was one year, and I know not all of these guys turned out to be stellar, but I want to say it was it might have been 2013. I want to say it was 2013 or 14. Jake Matthews, Taylor Lewan, Greg Robinson, who turned out to be the worst of the group. There were 5 guys that went in the top, probably 15 in the draft or 16, and they all ended up being good except for Greg Robinson. And we had another draft. This was in 2020, I think it was. I believe it was Brady's rookie season that we had Mekhi Becton and Dredrick Wills and the guy that went to the Buccaneers. It ended up being really good. Tristan Wirfs. I think there was 2 more tackles in there that I might be forgetting. And that was a really good tackle group as well. I don't know if this group is that. But we'll see, right? So we'll see. I think there's quality early, quantity throughout in this draft at offensive line. And that's why I think it's the second best position in this year's draft class. Meaning, if you're Washington and you have a chance to strike while the iron is hot early, you do so. If you're gonna, to me, if you don't get something to fall into your lap at 36, if I'm Washington, I'm not pressed to do anything. I think I then turn my attention to the third round, because that's when I think the value is once again there at tackle, right? That, and again, I could be wrong, and guys like Blake Fisher and and Wallace from Penn State could go in the second round. The likelihood is those guys go in the third round. And if that's the case, I think that you should just hold your water and wait, to be honest. The third best position to me in this draft is cornerback. So for me, quantity through the first 5 rounds at the cornerback position. After that, I think all of the good corners will be gone, and you're essentially working with projects at that point. And what makes this cornerback class an interesting one is this, to me, isn't a top heavy. I don't think the talent is super, super great in this draft. Like, you think about some of those talented cornerback classes that we've seen of recent memory. There was a year, 3 years ago now, 3 drafts ago, so probably the 2021 draft, where it produced 2022 draft, I want to say, because that 22 season was Sauce Gardner and the LSU kids, I always forget his name, that plays for the Texans. That was their first season, their rookie season, and then they played again this past year. So they're going into year 3. So the 2022 draft, right off the bat, you had 2 elite corners coming out. The kid from LSU and Sauce Gardner. You already knew that. And I think there was still another guy that ended up getting drafted not too far behind them. There are no Derek Stingley Jr., that's his name. There are no Derek Stingley Jr.'s in this draft class, I don't think. Now, the only guy that has a chance to be that is Quinyon Mitchell. But everybody's trying to sell you on Terrion Arnold. His ass gets cooked. Terrion Arnold does. All right. He's fearless, and he's not afraid, and he's got selective memory, which is what you have to have as a corner, but he's getting his ass worked. Man, you watch guys like shucks. What's my man's name? From Texas. Shit, I think I got his name written down. Adonai Mitchell. Adonai Mitchell was working his ass over. And there are other games where you go, bro, he's competitive as hell and he's gonna fight. But man, he was getting his ass worked. And I don't think there's any corner in this draft, like Ennis Rick Straw. Like, I'm not buying that shit. Like, this is not a great crop of corners. Kool-Aid McKinstry is basic. Like, these guys don't move the needle. He was getting work too, right? None of these guys really move the needle. They're fearless. They'll fight with you, but there aren't any Marshawn Lattimores in this draft. There aren't any Derek Stingley Jr.'s. Again, at least off first blush, somebody might come out of nowhere, but generally with corners especially, there usually aren't a bunch of surprises. You want one of those elite things, you usually got to go get it early, right? Patrick Peterson looked like Patrick Peterson when they drafted him 5th overall in Arizona. Marshawn Lattimore looked like Marshawn Lattimore, okay? The guys that we've known to be dominant corners, Stephon Gilmore, first-round corner. Like, it's not a secret. I'm not seeing it with a lot of these dudes, man. But again, I could be wrong. I remember not feeling like Darrelle Revis was going to be that guy. He looked to be sort of mid when he was coming out. He turned out to be the best corner we've seen in the league over the last 15 years. So I could be wrong about that position, but I don't think it's a super talented group. I just think it's really, really solid, and it's more quantity. And I think part of that is these nickels, guys like DJ Jones and Chris Abrams, Drain out of Mizzou. These are the kind of guys that are helping hold up this cornerback position. These nickels, guys that are more likely than not going to kick inside. I'm not blown away by the cornerback position, but as a whole, when you throw in the nickels and the depth of the position, it's a really solid group. The fourth best position is edge rusher for me in this draft. So I think there's quality early and quantity through the fourth round. After the fourth round, I think there's going to be a significant drop-off. Clearly, that could change, and all of this is subject to change based off of how these positions are drafted. If teams go for what they know and they're snatching up edge rushers like hotcakes in the first 3 rounds, they might not last to the fourth round. If this thing gets stretched out like I think it could, then it's the fourth round. If these teams don't see the value in these edge rushers and they bypass them for other positions that they think are stronger, then it could last to the 5th round. But I think the value in this draft is through the first 4 rounds. And here's what I think about the position as a whole. When I look at edge rusher, I see not a lot of production, not a lot of guys with tremendous skill. You're banking on upside this year in the draft in particular. Think about it from this standpoint. When you talk about true production in this draft, there are only about a handful of guys, right? Latu is one of the guys with tremendous production. Jared Verse is a guy with tremendous production. Dallas Turner is a guy with tremendous production in this draft class. Muhammad Kamara, guy with some production. There aren't many, though, okay? Most of these guys do not have tremendous production, and they don't have consistent production. A guy like Muhammad Kamara had solid production throughout his career, but take a guy like Darius Robinson, for instance. Yeah, 1 good year of production. Now, he did just move to edge rusher, and they put him outside this year, and he had his best season. So a lot of people think that translates and that he's going to continue to do that. We can't be assured of that, right? But most of these dudes, there aren't big numbers. I talked about Austin Booker. I'm in love with this guy's game and the upside. Man, had 4 sacks this year, right? Chop Robinson. People Chop Robinson this, Chop Robinson that. Chop Robinson had 4 sacks. There's no production, right? And he's not alone. A lot of guys in this draft don't have high-level production, all right? There aren't a lot of high-level. So you don't really know what you're getting. You're banking on upside. You're banking on the upside of a Chop Robinson. That's what you're banking on. Jared Verse is more of a known commodity because he comes in and he's Khalil Mack in the sense that he's a physically imposing bully, edge rusher. He's not trying to hide what he is. He knows how he's going to get to the quarterback. Dallas Turner, on the other hand, finesse guy, right? He's a guy that's going to try to run around you. But he still doesn't have tremendous skill. That's another thing. It's not a lot of skilled rushers in this draft. Again, you're going off of upside in this year's draft class. You're going off of upside. So I think there's quality early with the Jared Verses, the Dallas Turners, Latu. Those guys offer immediate quality. And then I think a lot of these other guys are offering you upside. And I think after you get past guys like Chop Robinson in this draft, I think there's a little bit of a gap as to where you want to go next. I could see if 5 guys as edge rushers go in the first round, and that includes Darius Robinson, I could see a gap where there's no other edge rusher that goes until the mid to late second into the third round. And I think that's what it should be, honestly, because there is a gap between those first 3 or 4 guys from a talent perspective, even though I think Austin Booker's right in that mix. I'm telling you, if you look at his tape and you see the upside and you can visualize what he could be in 2 years when he gets stronger and he ends up filling out his frame, and next thing you know, he's 254 pounds, and he's more physically imposing, but he's still got all the skills, and he's maybe even sharpened them even more so. If you can visualize that, there's a lot there with him. But this is a draft where the quality is early. There's quantity through the first 4 rounds, and then after that, there's not really much to speak of. The 5th position is quarterback in this year's draft class. It's top heavy, as most quarterback draft classes are, especially ones like the one we're talking about this year, where you could see 5 guys go in the first round. I still think the number is 5. I wouldn't be shocked if it's 4 or if it's 6. I think it's closer to 4 than it is 6. You definitely getting 4. I wouldn't be shocked if the league spoke and neither one of those 2 guys, Michael Penix Jr. or Bo Nix, went in the first round. I think somebody's going to take one of those 2 at the back end of the first round. I think what we're going to see is if Denver or the Raiders can't get up to get their hands on one of those top 4 signal callers, you're going to see the Raiders, the Vikings, and the Broncos all pass on quarterback initially, okay, with their picks at 11, 12, and 13. I believe they're right in sequence with one another. I think you're going to see them all pass on quarterback. Now, I think you're going to see one of them get the quarterback, and Minnesota's in the best position to do it at 23. Because to me, if you're Minnesota and you're not able to package up picks, which I don't see how they're not able to do it, because they position themselves. I think Arizona is going to be a willing participant. I still think there's an outside chance that Arizona says, man, you asking for me. You asking me to pass up on these receivers, bro. Because if you go to 11, you're not guaranteed anything. I still think you're going to end up with Rome Odunze being there at 11. You're not guaranteed, though. All it takes is for one team to go off script or somebody to trade, and all of a sudden, you missed out, right? You got all these picks for nothing. So there is an outside chance that Arizona says kick rocks. And at that point, you still got a shot because you can just go and deal with the Chargers. There's a chance that the Chargers tell you to kick rocks too. If Arizona stays and takes because if you're the Chargers, you're more likely to move, which you don't have any reason to move at that point. But you're more likely to move if Arizona moves, because that pushes the wide receivers down the board a little bit, because Arizona wants one and you know they want one. But if Arizona stays at 4, then you like, hey, we traded Keenan Allen. We released Mike Williams. We need a wide receiver. And again, it's a deep draft class, but I can't stress this enough. Those first 3 dudes aren't like the rest, okay? So while it's a deep draft class and you can find you a starter and you can find a guy that's going to end up being really good in the league, the rest of them don't look like the first 3, okay? They're different. So if you can get one of those guys, it'd be in your best interest to do so. So with that said, if I'm the Chargers, if I'm the Cardinals, I'm thinking long and hard about not moving out of that pick, because if you move back, nothing's guaranteed to you. We heard today that the Bears are maybe interested in moving back from 9. That's a great spot for somebody looking to come up and get one of these receivers, right? If you're I keep talking about the Bills. If you're the Bills, 9 is a great spot, because I doubt the Jets would want to do business with you and allow you to come up and get a receiver that could kick their ass, that could challenge Sauce Gardner for the next, 7 years. They don't want to do that. But the Bears don't have any dog in the fight. They just want the draft capital, right? So who knows? We'll see. At the end of the day, it's a top-heavy group of quarterbacks. And there's 2 guys outside of the first 5 that or 6, excuse me. There's 6 guys that you look at and say, all right, these 6 could probably make some noise, right? We know the names. I don't have to go through them. But then there are 2 guys after those first 6 that I think have a chance to actually have an NFL career now. It may be just as backup quarterbacks. They may get a run and an opportunity to start here or there, but we'll see what happens. And that's Spencer Rattler and Jordan Travis. Now, the injury he sustained to his leg, which was gruesome, and it sucked for him at the end of his final season at Florida State, sucks, because without that injury, he would have been intriguing, right? I think he had sort of this Ian Book type of close to his career, where you felt like, why can't this guy end up being really good, right? And you remember the Saints took Ian Book like in the 4th or 5th round, I think, somewhere in there, 5th round, I believe. And he ended up being funky, which is, I knew he would. Ian Book stunk, but Jordan Travis offers you a lot of those same traits, and it'll be interesting to see how he recovers from that leg injury. It might force him to go undrafted, but those are the 2 guys. I don't see any other quarterbacks really doing anything outside of those 2, of the big 6, rather. The 6th best position in this draft class is defensive tackle. There's quality early, and the 2 Texas defensive tackles stick out like a sore thumb. I wouldn't be shocked if both of those dudes went in the first round. One of the 2 is going to go in the first round. Okay. And then you've got the defensive tackle from Illinois. And I think he's got a shot to go in the first round, but I think he's going to end up falling to the second round. That's what I think. We'll see, but that's what it's kind of feeling like right now. And Johnny Newton. And then you've got Braden Fisk, who I absolutely love. All right. Braden Fisk is one of my favorite players in the entire draft. So when you look at those 4, I think they're separate of all the rest of the edge rush defensive tackles in this draft, right? I don't really see anybody else on that level with them. It's those 4 or 5 guys at the top, and then to me, there's a sizable gap, like the Chris Jenkins from Michigan, and a Row from Clemson, and some of these other dudes. Like, those dudes to me aren't in the same class as those top guys. So for me, it's quality early, because a lot of those dudes I just named, Tavondre Sweat and all of those dudes, Johnny Newton, Braden Fisk, all those guys, those are fringe first, early second round picks. After those guys are gone, they're going to be other, and it's all in what you're looking for. Me, I'm greedy. I want my guys to be able to do both, get to the quarterback and stop the run. And I think after those and I call those premium defensive tackles. I want a premium guy. I feel like you can find guys that aren't premium anywhere in the draft. You can find a guy that it can be a run stopper, You find that guy in the 4th, 5th round. I don't need you in the 2nd round, which is why I hated the Fedarian Mathis pick, because even though he had some production, anybody could watch the tape and tell he ain't getting to no damn quarterback at the NFL level. He's going to stop the run, but he ain't get to the quarterback. All of his sacks were hustle sacks. Other guys did the heavy lifting, and look what I found. Like, he wasn't getting to the quarterback. You don't spend a 2nd round pick on a guy that is essentially a backup that you're hoping stops the run for you. That's it. But that's nor here nor there. And the bottom line is this is a draft that offers you some guys that can change the game at the top portion of this draft. And as you get past those first 4 or 5 defensive tackles, I think there's a drop-off. And now it's, what are you looking for? You want to stop the run? You had issues stopping the run. It's plenty of those guys, right? Quality early and quantity through the first 4 rounds. So after you get past the 4th round, I think you rolling the dice at that point. Good luck, right? So defensive tackle is the 6th best position. Safety is the 7th best position in this draft this year. To me, you don't even start the safety conversation until you get to the 2nd round. All right. There's an outside chance that the safety out of Minnesota, Nubin, goes in the 1st round. I doubt it. Highly doubt it. Okay. I think Tyler Nubin's good. He ain't that damn good. He ain't 1st round good. But I think he's 2nd round good. And that's where, to me, you start the conversation at safety. And for me, I put down in my notes quantity from rounds 2 through 5. I think you can find yourself a solid starting caliber safety in rounds 2 and 3. And then at the start of day 3, rounds 4 and 5, you can find you a solid rotational depth / special teams contributor for your football team. After the 5th round, you're rolling the dice, baby. Good luck. There's just not a lot there. So this is very concentrated. You need a safety. Don't start shopping until the 2nd round. And you better have done all your shopping by the 5th round, because if you're shopping after that, good luck. You're going to need it. So that's kind of how I view the safety position. It's not a great crop of safeties in this year's draft class, but there is some depth in that middle portion of the draft, 2nd through the 5th round. There's some depth in there. You can find you a quality guy. The 8th best position in this year's draft class is the running back position. And I literally put in my notes, party starts at the 3rd round, ends at the 5th round. Don't be late. Okay. Don't be late. Don't be fashionably late to the running back party. If you want one, don't show up early. Don't show up in the 2nd round. There ain't shit here for you. Okay. Definitely don't show up in the 1st round. Don't show up in the 2nd round either. There ain't shit here for you. Party starts at the 3rd round. Okay. And it ends at the 5th round. If you show up late, you could miss out on some key guys. If you show up too late, the party's over. Okay. Party's over. So I think this is another one of those. And again, there are going to be some guys that go in the 6th round that may be intriguing. But to me, the crux of this position, and all you really need to know about this position is that for most people, the consensus number 1 back is Jonathan Brooks, and he's coming off of an ACL. He's not even able to work out, and he's still, for most people, the best running back in this class. Nobody's been able to jump him since he's out. Nobody's been able to say, you know what? Let me take advantage of Jonathan Brooks not being able to work out because he's injured, and let me take the top spot. He still looks like the best running back in this draft class. So it's not a great running back draft class, but there are guys, there's some guys, Keelan Robinson out of Texas got 4 returns for touchdowns in a league that's trying to shift from the return game being insignificant to relevant again. A guy like Keelan Robinson, who ran a 4.42 at the combine with 4 returns for touchdowns, may become someone that piques your interest, right? So you might be looking at the running backs for all sorts of different reasons. Tyrone Tracy Jr. out of Purdue, converted wide receiver to running back. Same deal, right? Has a kickoff return for a touchdown in his career. You know, he could offer you something. That he's more, I think, of that 5th round into the 6th round type of deal, but we'll see. Don't be late to the running back party. 9th is the tight end position. It's limited quality, early, intrigue through the 5th round. I just gave you a guy in Jarrett Wiley out of TCU that I think is a 5th round type of guy, right? And so you can find yourself a quality guy that intrigues you from rounds 2 through 5. But obviously, you've got a potential blue chipper coming out in the 1st round. And then you've got Jatavion Sanders in that 2nd round, range. And who knows? He could even fall to the 3rd round. I doubt it. But when you look at the tight end position, I think what we know is it's a position that beauty's in the eye of the beholder. What we perceive to be guys that don't fit what we might be looking for might be perfect for another team. I know for a fact that these guys here in Washington are looking to get more athletic at the tight end position. I don't blame them. I mean, think about it this way. If you look at our group that we have right now, and let's just assume that the 3 guys from last year are back, and then they added Zach Ertz. So you got Zach Ertz, you got Cole Turner, you got what's my man's name that's coming off the injury? I can't remember his name. And you got John Bates, right? Amani Rodgers. So you got Cole Turner, Amani Rodgers, John Bates, and Zach Ertz. Those are your 4 tight ends right now. You're literally an Amani Rodgers injury away from what exactly at the tight end position from an athletic profile standpoint. And I'll take it a step further. They might not even, love Amani Rodgers. He's still super raw, by the way. I'm not putting my eggs in the Amani Rodgers basket, just so we're clear. You're a Zachary Ertz injury away, and he's old, by the way. So it's not like, you're guaranteed that he's going to stay healthy for 17 weeks. You're literally a Zach Ertz injury away from this tight end position being what exactly? I almost feel like you have to draft a tight end. And here's the issue. If it's not Jatavion Sanders, and let's say it's a Jarrett Wiley, while I know he can catch the football, he can be this prolific pass catcher, do you trust a rookie to come in that is not of high quality to come in and impact your team in a major way in his rookie campaign? It's a tough ask, I believe, right? So for me, you almost have to try to get your hands on Jatavion Sanders if you can, which is why I think either 36 or 40 is going to be spent on him, because he can come in and impact right away. But there are some intriguing guys, as we've talked about, at the tight end position. And then the last position in this year's draft class is linebacker. And I literally put in my notes, best of luck. You need a linebacker this year. Best of luck to you. Godspeed. and may the force be with you. There are literally like 3 dudes in this year's draft that are worth a damn, for me at least. Everybody else is either a project or at best a backup or a core special teamer. There's the Colston kid from Michigan. There's Edgerrin Cooper from Texas A&M, and there's Peyton Wilson from NC State. And even those 3 aren't locks to be dominant at the NFL level. They just have the athletic profile, and they look the part of an NFL linebacker. None of those dudes are locks to do anything. The rest of these dudes, good luck. You're getting a project. You're getting a guy that doesn't have the instincts. You're getting a guy that has the athleticism but doesn't have the instincts. A guy that has the instincts but doesn't have the athleticism. Or you're getting a guy that is just a pure project. Like, okay, he's got some workable tools, but man, this guy's a long ways away from what you envision and a starting NFL linebacker being. It's a terrible, it might be the worst linebacker draft class I've ever seen. It's really bad. And I've seen some bad ones. You know, this one is right there with them. This is a pretty lousy crop of linebackers, to say the least. So, here's what I'll tell you as it pertains to the Commanders. So when I look at this list, and I've kind of, and I see Kevin says, what happened to Trotter? I don't love Jeremiah Trotter Jr. I might be in the minority there. I don't see it. He's all right, but he's not real. I literally believe he's getting a little bit of hype because of his name. If his name was Kerry Wilson, I don't think we'd be hearing about him as much. You know, if his name was James Tuttle, nothing. But because his name is Jeremiah Trotter Jr., we'll give him a look. See, we'll give him a little bit of a love. He's basic to me. So it's a bad group, bro. When Jeremiah Trotter Jr. is one of the better linebackers, and I look at him and I see basic linebacker, and he's one of the better guys in the group, you got a problem. So anyway, I digress. As far as this pertains to the Commanders, the reason why this is important, to me at least, is because this kind of gives you a working reference point and a framework from which to work off of if you're the Commanders. And I think these are the types of things that they kind of set up when they set up their draft board. These are the things that they take into consideration because it tells you when we can strike, what's the urgency at a position? When do we need to take this position? And obviously on draft day, or whatever draft day, because it's 3 days total, the board is going to tell you. Like, I could tell you that the quantity at corner runs out at through the 5th round, right after the 5th round. As I mentioned, they could go faster than that, and that shit could be done in the 4th round. And so you might have to speed up your clock, and maybe you were waiting until you got 2 5th rounders, and you say, you know what, we're gonna wait until the 5th round to get us our corner. We know we like 3 guys; they all should be there. And then as you watching round 3 kind of progress, and you're sitting there because Washington doesn't have a 4th round pick, and you're watching the way these corners are coming off the board, you go, bro, I don't know if we're gonna be able to sit here and wait. Now, what might force you to do is package up the 5s and try to get up to the 4th to get your guy, because you're probably better off doing that than just sitting there waiting and then not getting anything or having to settle for a different player. But at the end of the day, this gives you a working framework. So you know what it is at wide receiver. There's quality throughout. I think if there was one position that you could truly wait on, it'd be wide receiver. Now, clearly, there are going to be some guys that are exceptions to the rule, and there may be some names that they say to themselves, if this guy's available at said pick, return it in the card. All right. For example, You get to 40 if you're in Washington and Xavier Worthy is still there. And there's a very good chance that he is still there. There's a very good chance that he's not there. All it takes is a team like Kansas City to be like, yeah, this guy will be our perfect Hollywood Brown replacement next year when Hollywood Brown's 1-year deal runs out. He could be our new Tyreek Hill. I can see the Chiefs pulling the trigger on him, right? I see Baltimore, who just lost Odell Beckham Jr. in free agency, say, yeah, this could be our Odell Beckham Jr. replacement, right? I could see the 49ers saying, oh, Brandon Ayuk not coming back. I think they would more so go get a guy like Adonai Mitchell. He kind of fits that Brandon Ayuk mold more so than a Worthy, but you get my drift. You know, there's a number of teams ahead of us that could say, you know what, this 4.2-140 receiver would fit perfect on our team. What team wouldn't want a guy that runs a 4.2-140, right? So yeah, we'll see what happens. At the end of the day, you can wait at receiver. O-line, I've been saying this the entire time, and it hasn't changed. You want to go early if you can. The earlier, the better. The sooner, the better at specifically tackle. I don't care what you do with guard or center. You've done enough in free agency, if you ask me. I don't really know if you need to do anything at those positions. But if you feel like doing something there, knock yourself out. To me, where you really need to be aggressive is that tackle. If there's one position I'm willing to trade up for, it'll be tackle, because once those guys, there's probably about 6 guys in this draft, 6 names. J.C. Latham, Joe Alt, Olu Fashanu, Troy Fatanu, my guy, Talisa Fuaga, and Marius Mims. I'm not even a massive fan of Tyler Guyton, to be honest with you, but I'd take him. He's like the last of that group. Like, if he's there, fine, right? I wouldn't trade up for Tyler Guyton. I want him to fall in my lap at 36. I'm not willing to trade up for Tyler Guyton. Any of those other 5 guys that I just mentioned, oh, I'm trading up for one of them in a heartbeat. If that guy fell into my range of where I was willing to trade up, oh, you best believe I'd trade up for any one of those 5 dudes without hesitation. I'm not blown away by Tyler Guyton, Jordan Morgan, Kieran Omegadeji. None of those dudes, right? None of those dudes move the needle for me at all. Guyton is a guy that I'm interested in, but again, he's got to fall in my lap. All the rest of those dudes at 36, I'm good. I think they take Jordan Morgan at 36. I do think they'll take him if he's there. I wouldn't love the pick. I don't hate it. He doesn't move the needle for me. He doesn't move the needle for me. So, cornerback, I think you're just better off waiting if you're Washington, to be honest, because I think all the good corners are going to be gone by the time you're considering taking one. To me, there are only maybe 2 or 3 guys that have a chance to be truly elite. I don't know about the temperament of the kid from Clemson, but his profile screams, I got a chance. I'd like to see more physicality from him. That worries me about him, because he seems like a sometimesy guy. I might come in and help you in the run game. I might play pity pat with the guy over here and act like I'm busy. Y'all got it, right? You know, but he has traits where you go, he could easily turn out to be a damn good corner in this league. I've already talked about Quinyon Mitchell, and I think that you can probably wait and find you a quality corner. Like that's one of those positions where I'm like, unless somebody falls in your lap that you really, really like, probably could wait to the. I'd even say you might be able to wait until. Being that we don't have a 4th round pick, I think you probably got to pull the trigger with one of your thirds. If you don't do anything and you got your 3/3, you probably got to pull the trigger in the 3rd round. That'd probably be your best move. But I don't love this position as a whole. You know, the year that we look and we say, man, we could really use a corner. I am praying that Emmanuel Forbes, under this new coaching staff, turns into the 1st round pick he was drafted to be. Because if he does, he solves so many issues that we have at cornerback. Because then all you need is for somebody to play solid ball opposite of him. You just got to find a guy that can be a placeholder over there, which I think Michael Davis is going to provide us this year. But if you don't have anybody opposite of Michael Davis, you're in trouble. And lots of it. Because there's no Kendall Fuller to bail us out this year. Okay? There's no Kendall Fuller. So if we could just hold on till next year, and I don't know if the group next year is any better than this year, but I can tell you this, the best cornerback in college football this year is going to come out in next year's draft. And that's one William Johnson of Michigan. And he looks like Marshawn Lattimore. And he looks like Derek Stingley Jr. And he looks like, you know, all of those guys, Patrick Peterson, and those top 5, top 7, top 10. Even though Marshawn Lattimore was a top 10, he should have been. And we talked about enough. I don't need to go through that again. But he looks like one of those top 5 type corners. And I don't think we'll be in a position to draft him. But if there are more that look like him, we won't need quarterback next year. We may need tackle next year. Probably so. My guess is we will. Because if you only draft one and you're going to presumably start Cornelius Lucas, you're going to need tackle next year. But we'll see. I'm just praying that Emmanuel Forbes Jr. has that bounce back season that we need him to have. That's what I'm praying. You can wait on corner, though, I think, and still find good value is what I think. Edge, it's interesting because what they're looking for, they've shown just in their top 30 visits, you can find what they're looking for at any point in the draft. We got French first, early second, and Chop Robinson. You got mid rounds and Nealon, right? Marshawn Nealon. Then you've got late round and Austin Booker too is mid round. So Austin Booker, Marshawn Nealon. I think it's more. You know, I'm more in. Give me Booker. To hell with all that other shit. Give me Booker. But you got John Baptiste. At the back end of the draft. So they've shown they're guys that look kind of the same at every different level. You'll find an edge rusher. I'm not hard pressed. I've already made that abundantly clear. I'm not hard pressed at edge rusher, but you're going to need edge rusher again next year regardless. Because as I mentioned already, unless one of these dudes comes in here and lights it up, Cleveland Farrell is what he is. He's not lighting anything up. Dante Fowler Jr. is what he is. He's not lighting anything up. We know who these dudes are that they signed, okay? F.A. Obata is who he is. He's not lighting anything up. We know exactly what we're getting in every single one of these edge rushers that they signed, okay? Dorrance Armstrong is the only one under contract for the foreseeable future, and they're going to have to add to that position. So whether we get a guy this year or not, you're going to probably have to add a guy next year anyway. Quarterback, we already know what that's going to be. We're going to take one at 2 and move on. Defensive tackle, I've made the case already that if one of those guys, and I expect at least one, if not 2 or 3 of these dudes to be available at the top of the second round, Johnny Newton, Braden Fisk. I expect those guys to be around. I think Sweat is more of a luxury. T'Vondre Sweat is more of a luxury that we don't have, that we don't need a guy like that. We don't need a space eater, type of guy. We got guys that stop the run, and that's all they do, but backing up the Bama wall. I want guys that can get to the quarterback, that are quick twitched and keep. If one of those dudes falls to you, Murphy's definitely going in the first round. But if Fisk or Newton are there, I wouldn't be mad at it. I've already said that. I wouldn't be mad at it. If you're not going to get one of those elite things, I don't want nothing at defensive tackle in this draft. Nothing. If you're not drafting somebody at like 36, or one of them dudes somehow falls to 40, because I can see an instance where Newton and Fisk are there at 36. But just that quick, they could be gone by 40, right? So I'd be interested in either one of those dudes at 36 or 40. If you're not getting one of those top 5 guys that I referenced, and I don't even want T'Vondre Sweat, let somebody else have him. Because that's 360 pounds. We don't need nothing with a 360. And that don't even fit Dan Quinn's scheme, right? That doesn't even fit what Joe Witt Jr. and Dan Quinn are trying to do. That's somebody else's problem, not ours. Right? We can stop the run perfectly fine with our 300-pound dudes. If one of these other dudes shake free, though, I'm all for it. After those dudes, I'm good on defensive tackle. I don't want another dude in the draft. I'm good. Not looking for it. Safety, I think that it'll be interesting to see if they think, because in my mind, how many years in a row could you possibly need to draft safety? We've drafted a safety in every draft since 2020. Cam Curl in 20. You drafted Defoe in 21. You drafted Percival Butler in 22. And then you drafted Quan Martin in 23. That's 4 straight years in a row. Like, at some point, you got to go, hey, we good on safety now. We straight. You bring back All-Pro Revo, and I get it, it's a 1-year deal, but this is a 1-year deal. Unlike the Cleveland Farrell and the Dante Fowler Jr. and the Bobby Wagner, the 1-year deal you signed Jeremy Chin to is a 1-year deal with upside, meaning he could tear it up for us and they go, no, bro, we want you back. I think I want you back. Your play has made a deep impact. I know this might sound whack, but man, I think I want you back. That they could be singing that song next year about Jeremy Chin. And so you might not need to do anything. I don't think safety is a position that you really, unless there's a guy like Cole Bishop, for instance, that falls in your lap. And I know in my mock draft, I gave us Dominique Hampton, but that was with the thought process of, oh, Jeremy Chin's leaving next year. He doesn't have to leave next year. He doesn't have to go anywhere. So we'll see. I'll just say that. We'll see. Running back, the party starts at round 3. I really don't want to spend a 3rd round pick on a running back. I really would prefer to spend a 4th round pick on a running back. Guess what? We don't have a 4th round pick. And I'm not mad at that. We swapped out our 4th for a 3rd. I'm not tripping. Which would you rather have? 3/3 or 2/3 and a 4th? I'd take the 3/3. Thank you very much. So I'm not tripping about it. But again, unless you're going to package up your 2 5s to come up into the 4th round and get a guy, if you don't take a running back in the 3rd, you probably are better served just not taking a running back at all, unless there's a guy there in the 5th round, as I mentioned, like a Keelan Robinson in a draft where you could be looking for a return man. There's your return man. Who knows? Again, and he offers you speed. And so, again, that exists. That's a thing. And that's real. But we'll see what happens. I said all of that to say this. I don't know if they're hard pressed to get a back. And if they're not, I'm not tripping about it. When they signed Austin Eckler, I rewired my brain to think, oh, no running back. And then as I started sitting down and looking and doing mock drafts and kind of thinking longer, and then, you know, what's crazy is once I did my mock draft, what ended up being crazy was you get to that 3rd round with all those picks and you're like, bro, I can do whatever I like. Yeah. I was like, man, there's so many options. What do I do? Right. And when we're sitting here going through the options, you got 1 in the 1st, 2 in the 2nd, 3 in the 3rd. It sounds great. And we keep talking about 6 picks in the top 100. But literally when every single one of y'all have done a mock draft, at least one, right? When you get to that 3rd round and you're like a kid in a candy store, oh my God, I could pick a guy here and in 16 more picks, I can pick or 11 more picks, I can pick another guy, and then 22 picks later, I can pick, or I can trade up, or I can trade back. The options are endless in that 3rd round. And one of those positions is running back. Again, we'll see what they decide to do. What I think is going to be fun to watch is what they do in the 2nd round is going to weigh heavily as to what they do in the 3rd round. Clearly, right? I'm not telling you something you don't already know. But to me, if you get tackle, tight end, then you're looking at receiver and corner and edge rusher potentially in the 3rd round, right? Those are positions that start to move up the board in terms of need and wants and things of that nature. Obviously, how the board falls and players that are available are going to dictate that. But let's say it's tackle and receiver that you get in the 2nd round. Now it's tight end, right? Corner and edge rusher that you're looking for. Let's say you don't get a tackle at all in the 2nd round, and it's edge rusher and tight end in the 2nd round. Well, now tackle moves straight to the top of the list in the 3rd round, right? And wide receiver is right behind it. And corner is right there banging on the door too, like, hey, don't forget about me, right? So it's really going to be dictated about what's done in the 2nd. And then that's going to tell you what the 3rd should look like. But this is the beauty of what they've done. This is the beauty of the Juice Weasel, folks. We don't have to do, other than tackle at some point, preferably in the first 3 rounds, okay? After the 3rd round, I'm not interested in a tackle. If you haven't addressed tackle in our first 6 picks, we're screwed. Period. Okay? They're going to take care of it. I'm not worried about it. I'm not tripping. So outside of tackle, after you select your quarterback, you aren't obligated to do anything. That includes receiver, corner, all of it. You're not obligated to do anything because of what you've done in free agency now. I strongly advise, okay, I strongly advise you draft a corner. You don't have to. You don't have to. All right? There's still some holdovers from last year on the roster. You don't have to do anything. You signed James Pierre. You signed Noah Igbenogany. You don't have to do anything. I would advise you strongly to do something. Wide receiver, you don't have to do anything. All right? You still got De'Ami Brown. Right? You still got some of them young boys from last year that you were fooling around with in camp. They still here. You still got what's the kid name that made the team last year? He's still here. You don't have to do anything. But I strongly advise you do something. This is too deep of a crop of receivers to not do something. So after tackle, the possibilities are endless. I love the position that we sit in. And then linebacker, I'm good. Like that's what you spend the 7th round pick on, honestly. At linebacker, I'm not willing to spend any of our top 5 round picks on linebacker because this draft isn't worth it. You want to spend our 7th round pick on a linebacker? Go ahead. Knock yourself out. You know, I feel real Jada Kiss. Go ahead. Knock yourself out. Don't spend none of our first 8 picks on linebacker. That's a waste of a pick. Unless you're getting Peyton Wilson in the 2nd round, go right ahead. Be my guest. Peyton Wilson's still around in the 3rd round and you want to spend one of the 3rd rounders, go right ahead. Edgerrin Cooper, go right ahead. You want to spend it on one of those guys? Junior Colson, go right ahead. You have my blessing. After those 3 dudes, don't waste my picks, man. You can do whatever you like. Just don't waste my draft picks now, okay? Don't waste it now. Don't waste my draft picks, man. Yeah, Tinsley. Mitchell Tinsley still here. You don't have to do anything, technically. I strongly advise you take a receiver, though. Anyway, I digress. Let's get to the comment section. Jay Willard, been a member for 31 months, man. You slowly trickling up to that 3-year mark, bruh. Salutes to you. My guy Jay writes, Louie, Jay, what up, baby? The draft gets closer. I can't help but get nervous. This number 2 pick is going to shape the team's future, and they need to get it right or it's a setback. Guess what? I tell my wife this all the time. Control what you can control. We don't control any of that. I'm not nervous at all. I won't be nervous about that pick until Roger Goodell is walking towards the podium with the card in his hand to announce the pick. And that's when the heart will start beating fast because I want to know. And I want to see what they decided was the best option for this team moving forward. And then we're going to pick the decision apart, right? The Civil War isn't going to end. It's just going to be on hold. It'll be a pause. And then once the selection is made, there will be an explosion, okay? Both sides have cannon that they're ready to fire if their guy doesn't get selected. And once that pick is turned in and that announcement is made, somebody's going to say, fire the cannon. And all you're going to hear is, right? And then we'll just have to roll with whatever decision they make. We'll roll with it, and then we move forward. And now the next goal would be, hey, let's get this young fella some protection. Let's strap up, right? Hey, let's find this man an umbrella. Don't want to get rained on. Don't want to catch a brick. Don't want to get rained on. Jay, let me just say this. Don't overthink it. Like, you can't go into it thinking they got to get this right or it's going to set us back. Just go with the flow, man. Just roll with the process. Let's just see what, again, too many people get stuck in trying to look to the future. Just enjoy the ride. If you were preoccupied with worrying about 2013 or 14, you would have missed 2012 and you didn't enjoy the ride. And that was a fun-ass ride, 2012 was. And if you tainted that by thinking, oh my God, we got the guy. Like, I felt good in a moment, like, yo, he could be terrorizing this division and this league for the next decade. But I was just enjoying the ride, bro. I was just enjoying the ride. When Kirk came in, I was enjoying every bit of that season. And I'm glad I did, because we haven't had another one like it since. I'm glad I enjoyed that ride. We haven't had anything remotely close to that since. Just enjoy the ride, man. The ups, the downs, the twists, the turns. Just enjoy it all. And if they didn't get it right, we'll try again in 3-4 years from now. If they did get it right, we're going to be talking about it. And that means we're going to be playing some meaningful football here very shortly. Video channel. Thank you for the super chat. Or excuse me, Anthony P. My bad. Been a member for 21 months. Really appreciate you getting close to that 2-year anniversary. Anthony says, I heard we're drafting May, JD, and McCarthy. And depending on who you talk to, Caleb Williams isn't out of the mix yet. There's still people out there holding out hope. I'm not the one, man, to tell them. You can tell them. But I've strongly advocated for pushing hope into your veins instead of dope in your veins. So if you want to keep pushing that hope narrative, who am I to stop you, man? Keep hope alive. Video channel. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Video channel writes, sup, Lou? Sup, video channel? So many variables with the board. I need this thing to be over ASAP. You still got 2 weeks. Hang in there. Any plans to do breakdown vids on the rookies? So I just do one big vid. As soon as the draft is over, I usually jump on live and discuss the draft, kind of get you guys' feel for the draft, how you feel. And a lot of y'all, once the picks are made, you just go straight to some highlights and check out, just to get a feel for what we just, got ourselves. And then you want to hear what everybody else thinks about our draft. How did we do, right? And if Mel Kiper, if ESPN says it's an A-, if NFL Network's Bucky Brooks or Daniel Jeremiah says it's a B+, then you're just going to roll with it, right? If everybody is denouncing the draft and saying it's terrible, which they won't. We got Adam Peters. We got Chef P. I ain't tripping. I ain't worried about nothing. I already know he's going to kill it. He's going to kill it, put it on a skillet, fried, dyed, lay it to the side. Red beans and gravy, I ain't too lazy. I already know what it is. I already know what he's going to do. But still got to wait and see. So, yeah, I'm going to be active, very active. And I've already told you guys the schedule, but I'm going to tell you this a million times. I'm going to be live day one with you guys, all 3 hours of that first round. Day two, I'll be live on Bleacher Report. So come with me if you would like. I'll be live on Bleacher Report with 3 other content creators that they have on Bleacher Report who are in-house for the other teams in the division. So the Giants, the Cowboys, and the Eagles. And I'll be representing Washington. And we'll be live during the draft for that. Then after that's over, because Washington's going to be very active in day two, I'm going to come back. We're going to chop it up and we're going to talk. And it's an after party, essentially, right? You know what we do. You know how we do it, all right? I'm going to bring the drinks. You bring whatever. You know how we do when we party. You just can't bring milk. That's the only thing you can't have, right? Shout out to my girl, Miss P. Sparkling water is allowed. Whatever flavor you like, okay? Whatever you like. Just don't bring any milk in my vicinity. I mean, no, I'm not going to make any exceptions. No milk allowed. Sorry. Not sorry. And then after that day 3, I don't do anything for day 3 until after the draft is over. Then I jump on live, and then the either the following day or the day after, you're going to get the full breakdown. That means I've watched all of these prospects, and here's what I think, right? And so that's kind of the video that I'll be able to kind of talk very candidly if I haven't already, jumped on and done it by then. And more likely than not, I wouldn't have. But, that's how that's going to do work. So, Duncan Wright, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. And thank you for being a member of the MOBB. And also remember, if you're out there, do me a favor, hit the like button if you haven't already done so. I really appreciate you guys doing that more frequently here of late. I'm going to have a major announcement on the draft, right? Right in the smack dab middle of the draft. So you're going to want to stick around for that. So if you're coming in, just watch Washington's pick and then get out of there, you're going to miss the major announcement. So hang in there as long as you can, because I have a major announcement right at the middle of the first round. So hopefully you'll be with me when I make that announcement. Duncan Wright writes, yesterday you asked me 2 questions and acting all bad. Okay, I'll play your game. I'll play with you. Whoa, pause. You're starting to come on to me like you Subway or something. This little game we play. Hey, hold on. I'm not playing any games with you. What are we talking about here, Duncan? How many drinks you done had tonight? How far are we in tonight? This is tea for me. I'm fine. What says you? He says, I'll tell you how I became an Eagles fan. You asked. He says, just remember you asked for it and be prepared. Nah. Okay. I did ask. That's real. Duncan Wright, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Who writes, I became an Eagles fan because my mom moved to Philly. My mom said she moved because she moved out of her parents' house. My dad said the real reason my mom moved because she really? You asked, man. I didn't ask you why you moved out of your mom, why your mom moved out of your dad's house, all of that stuff. I didn't ask you none of that. Okay? I just asked you why you became an Eagles fan. You didn't have to give me all of the extra background stuff. Okay. I did ask. I appreciate the answer. I guess I need to be careful what I ask for. I just might get it. I did ask, and you did tell me I got a little bit more than I bargained for there. But thank you, Duncan. King of the Bluegrass, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate it. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, Max Melton and Andrew Phillips are who I hope the Commanders draft at cornerback. Max Melton is moving up boards. I really think people are starting to do more and more homework on him. They're watching more and more tape, and they're selling themselves on Max Melton, the corner out of Rutgers. Andrew Phillips is interesting. He's out of Kentucky. I like him. I got some more work to do, but I think I've watched him indirectly. I haven't I'm here to watch Andrew Phillips. I've seen him watching receivers and who's this guy that they're going up against? That's always important to me. When you watch wide receivers, you want to see them go up against the best. When you watch edge rushers, you want to watch them go up against the best tackles that you can find. So you try to find those matchups. And then, he was one of those guys. If you're in the SEC, I want to see what you did against him. If you're in the Big Ten, I want to see what you did against Will Johnson, right? These are guys that are getting drafted that are high level, or Will Johnson next year. These are high level athletes that'll be playing on Sundays. And so first glance, I was impressed, but I want to watch more to see what he is truly all about. Duncan Wright, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Duncan writes, By the way, my mom's from VA, I'm assuming. Rosalind, Virginia, a Redskins fan. So your mom sounds like a smart woman. I don't know why you didn't take after her if your mom's a Redskins fan. I don't understand. What happened to you? You must have fell on your head when you were a kid. That's what happened. You know, and it happens a lot, man, where kids fall on their head and next thing you know, they become Eagles fans. And you were probably one of them. I feel bad for you, but it's okay. I still love you, man. And you're still a part of the family. King of the Bluegrass. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Who writes, Lou, man, I've been obsessed with the Hendon Hooker idea. Then Minnesota, you want to better include Christian Darrisaw in that offer. One, they wouldn't include him. How bad you want a quarterback, but then you put yourself in a position where you got your quarterback, but now you can't protect him, right? So, I mean, if you're Washington, you could theoretically twist their arm on some, Bears Panthers shit where they say, hey, we don't have a deal unless you give me DJ Moore, and go about it that way. And Darrisaw's still young enough that you're going to have to pay him. Obviously, he's probably going to be looking for a deal here shortly, but you're willing to pay for a guy that's still got a lot of football left in front of him. And to think we could have had Christian Darrisaw. We could have had him. Whatever. They're not going to do. It's funny you brought that up. So I want to thank everybody who watched that video, because it was a video that I was twisting my own arm to do, because I know we're not trading out of two. But I wanted to leave y'all with a little something over the weekend. I thought it was a food for thought type of video. And I didn't think the trades were that far-fetched. I thought they were well thought out, and it was just something else to consider. But you know how I've been the entire time. But what was so fascinating is, even in the title, I begged you, just give me a second, right? Just give me a minute. Just give me a minute. I'm going to hit it and quit it. Just give me a minute, right? So many comments. I got videos that I'm begging y'all to comment on. And you guys, a lot of the times you'll oblige, but it's not the amount of comments. That video had over 200 comments, which is a lot for my videos. I was just like, whoa. It was a lot of response, but that's what, the draft, trading back, quarterbacks, etc. That's what it does. It really gets people going. And boy, some of the comments in there were wicked. Wiggy. Yo, wiggy. It was rough. I was like, whew, this is why I'm inside with the door locked and the blinds closed and the curtains closed. This is why I'm inside. It was nasty. Some people were putting stuff on me I didn't even say. Mega said that I said that Hendon Hooker was the equivalent of Jaden Daniels. I never said that. I said he was being viewed in the same light as we're viewing Jaden Daniels this year. That's what I said. I did not say they were the same guy. And people were just putting shit on me. I was like, whoo, this is why I'm inside with all 7 locks locked. It's dangerous. It's dangerous out there, boy. People hear what they want to hear, man. But I appreciate, you guys, commenting. I told you I read everything. May not always respond, but I read everything. As far as that's concerned, it was just an idea, something to throw out there. The move is to stay at 2 and make a selection. That's the move. And that's what they're going to do. But I like that idea that if you were dealing with Minnesota, you could ask for a little bit more. I don't know if you asked for Darrisaw because at 11, you're right there in a position to draft a tackle. Why trade for a guy that you're going to have to pay when you can get a guy on a rookie contract? That could. Now, this is the thing. Christian Darrisaw is a known commodity. You know what you're getting. You don't know what you're getting with that guy you would be drafting at 11 with that trade with Minnesota. But I sure as hell would like to find out for a lot less money. That's for sure. Anyway. Kevin the PRF, been a member for 23 months. You're almost at that 2-year anniversary, Kevin. Says, I'll pass on those 4.240 receivers. Those Porsches always end up in the shop. You're not wrong. Usually those guys are high maintenance, but not all of them are. Okay, not all of them. Tyreek Hill is usually available every single week. Not all of those guys are high maintenance, but to your point, most of them are. Most of those are high maintenance vehicles that require lots of maintenance and are always in the shop. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. Got any grapes? Been a member for 31 months. Salutes to you on your way to 36 months. Hey, Lou, you didn't mention Mikey. Has Sandwichstrill fallen off because of Quan? No, Sandwichstrill is still a guy that I really like, but they have similar skill sets. If you're taking like Mikey Sandwichstrill, I like his entire body of work though. Former receiver, turned corner/safety, team leader. Like he's got all the traits you're looking for. Like he's a winner, he's a leader. He instantly boosts the competitiveness in your locker room. He's one of those type of guys that I think he just come in and immediately people gravitate to his leadership qualities. But as far as his play on the field, if you're going to get a nickel, you might as well get a real nickel. Like he's the same thing as Quan Martin. If you're going to get Mikey Sandwichstrill, you might as well just roll with Quan Martin. Because they're very similar players. Very similar players. So I think he's going to be a damn good player in this league. I just don't think he fits Washington because we already got a guy. It's duplicates. You know how I feel about duplicates. He would be a duplicate of Quan Martin. I think you're just better off. If you're going to get a guy to play nickel, just get you a true nickel. If you're going to do that. Christopher McLaughlin, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy, Chris, as always, thank you for your support. And really do appreciate you. My guy, Chris writes, hey, Lou. What's up, Chris? Hope all is well with you and the fam. Likewise, as always. 3 questions. 1, what would you consider statistically a successful season for Daniel/May, or is it just passing the eye test this season? That's a great question. Questions 2 and 3. What are the most important stats for the O and D that needs to be improved? So for the defense, it's pretty simple. It's turnovers. Because while we were statistically one of the worst third down defenses in the league last year, or points per game, and that's the low-hanging fruit, is the points per game given up. We can't help but improve in that department. We can't be any worse than we were last year. We were getting our asses handed to us on a weekly basis, and we were giving up damn near 40, it felt like, almost every week. When we didn't give up 40 and it was only 30 or 31 or 34, that felt like a win, right? Because most weeks somebody was putting a 40 spot on our skull. And even the bad part was even the teams that couldn't score would light us up. And for the Giants, 31 was a party. Shit. That's like 100 points for a normal NFL team with the way they were scoring points last year. So to come into Washington and put up 31, even though 7 of that was a pick 6 thrown at the end of the game. Doesn't matter. We let Tommy DeVito come in here and throw for 3 touchdown passes. Should be ashamed of yourself. So everybody was putting up 40 on this, it felt like. So you got to bring that down. But really, it's turnovers, man. That's the name of the game. We haven't been a high-volume turnover forcing team. And to me, if you want to expedite the process of getting better defensively, the first thing you have to do is start forcing turnovers, creating shorter fields, or at a bare minimum, keeping the opposition off the scoreboard. And if you take it away, they can't score. So the first thing I'd say for the defense is create turnovers. And that's what these guys have set out to do. And I trust that they're going to do that. Offensively, it's what we've been saying this entire time. And that's we got to score points, man. You're not going to beat anybody averaging less than 20 points a game, which is what we've essentially done the last 3 years. You're not going to beat anybody doing that. You're not going to win a bunch of games in this league 17-15. But if you want to know how you go about doing that, let's just get playmakers more involved. Let's just get the best players the football. It seems simple. It seems elementary. It seems like something that as a fan you shouldn't have to ask for. You shouldn't have to say. But because it was so bad last year, we have to get our playmakers. And I'll add another thing in because we just haven't been any good at this. You guys got to go back to Jay Gruden. We haven't been any good at situational football offensively. We just don't seem to get it. Whether it's red zone, whether it's 3rd and 3, whether it's 3rd and 1, we just don't get it. We need to be better situationally. We need to score more points. And the way to do both of those things is to get your best players to football. So those would be my 2 things, right? And then a successful season for either May or Daniels. That's a great question because I think this is going to be different for everyone. I think that for most people, they want to see immediate success. They want instant gratification, right? They want this team to be winning 8-9 games in their rookie season. And I still don't think that's feasible. Don't think that's plausible. I don't think that's how you define success. I don't think there's a number. What success looks like for me is the eye test for these guys because you know it when you see it. It may not translate to wins immediately, but we all know when we see a guy and we go, hey, we might have something. You know, it may not lead to victories right away, but you know when you see, hey, this dude, there's something to this guy. I think we got something here. And so if nothing else, I just want us to come out of this season saying, hey, we got something. Like, I know this isn't an apples to apples comparison. I mean, we're not that far off. They had the number 1 pick. We got the number 2 pick. But in Joe Burrow's rookie season, the Bengals were getting their asses handed to him. He had a couple of impressive wins that year, though. I remember they beat the Titans. That's when the Titans were really good. Remember, in 2019, the Titans went to the AFC Championship game. So Burrow's rookie season was the following year in 2020. And they beat the Titans. And I remember that game. And I remember saying, oh, okay, that's a nice win. But he was struggling. He was getting his ass handed to him. But not he. The Bengals were getting their asses handed to him. But they were also putting a lot on Joe's plate. I remember in his rookie season, also, there was a game against the Cleveland Browns in which I think he had like 30 some odd pass attempts in the first half. And he finished the game with like 56 or 63 passing attempts in a game, which is insane. But you left that season, he got hurt, and the Bengals only won 4 games maybe that year, whatever it was, because they ended up being in a position to draft Jamar Chase the following year in 2021, get his teammate. But you left that season, if you were a Bengals fan, you say, hey, we got something here. You know, we can keep this man upright, which is why there was a debate between Penei Sewell and Jamar Chase because he had gotten hurt the year prior. But I said all of that to say this. They knew they had something, which you should. You drafted them number 1 overall, but they knew they had something, even though the record didn't reflect. He passed the eyeball test. That's what you're looking for. It may not translate to wins right away, but I need you to pass the eyeball test. I need there to be, without a shadow of a doubt, to a man in the fan base, every man, woman, and child, you should be able to say, hey, do we got our quarterback? And everybody in unison should be like, yeah, we got our guy. Even teams in the division should be like, yeah, I think y'all got one there. That's when you know it's real, right? When other teams in the division acknowledge, hey, I think y'all got something. Because don't nobody ever want to give other teams in the division credit. Don't nobody ever want to give your other teams love, like, yo, he nice for real. That's hard to come by, but you can't deny it when you see it. I just want the quarterback when we leave that rookie season. And it may not, it depends, because if it's Drake May and they decide, and I think this narrative of Drake May not starting right away, I think it's been totally oversold. And I think if they draft whoever they drafted to, I think it's starting week 1. But let's just go with the premise that May is the pick, and they decide he's not ready, and he doesn't start till week 7. You may not have enough data. You may not have enough games to know, but you would hope that even in those, 10 games that he started, you've seen enough to say, oh, yeah, we got this thing right. That's the hope. But we'll see what happens, right? Duncan Wright, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy Duncan writes, have a great night, all you good people. Drink and be happy. We all want to feel like you, man. We all want to feel like you. Show up and show out the football team. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, Phoenix Jr. with more draft picks. Okay. Penix Jr. If you're a Penix Jr. fan, then you love that move. I don't know of a lot of fans that would be open to doing that. Would be the trade back and get a tackle group. They love it. They'd love to do that. Best of both worlds. Get the tackle and the quarterback. I personally believe that when you suck as bad as we sucked last year, you earned the right to select your signal caller of the future, and you should not pass up that right to select that guy. I've been adamant about that. That's been my stance. It has not changed. So I can't co-sign trading back and selecting Michael Penix Jr. personally. One six Devil Doc. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. 16 Devil Doc writes, Lou, I don't know if you used to watch X-Men, the animated series in the 90s, but these new episodes have been great. I highly recommend it. The last episode was amazing, heart-wrenching, just wow. Of course I watched. And you're referencing X-Men 97. And I'm going to watch it. I already have it saved. And I know they're doing episodes on a weekly. I'm too greedy for that. Okay. I've been staying away from social media. I haven't been conversing with people about it because I don't want to hear shit about it because I know it's great. And of course, you know, that was one of my favorite theme songs growing up. And then the little burn at the end with the gambit cards. I actually had a series, and this was short-lived. I don't even know if I put out an episode. I think I put out one episode, and it was called Pulling Your Card. And I kind of had that X-Men series theme music on it. It was dope. The concept was dope, but I got slapped for copyright infringement. And that was back when YouTube wasn't as friendly with the copyright stuff. So I had to drop that real quick. But I'm going to watch it. You don't have to try to get me to watch that. Once it's all done, I'm going to binge it probably in one day. I imagine these episodes aren't very long. I'm going to binge it. I want to wait for my daughter to come back to watch them, but she might be out back. I'm just going to be honest. I might just take a night and just knock those puppies down and be done with it. And I've heard nothing but good things about it. So I can't wait to watch. Cannot wait. Video channel. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Who writes? I'm sold on Keelan for a kickoff return. What round will he go? That's a tough one. I think he's going to go somewhere in that 4th, 5th round range. Again, I think the value at running back is from rounds 3 to 5. So I think it's going to be concentrated. I think the best guys at the position are going to go in that window. He is more of a change of pace guy. Clearly, the 4.42 40. He's not an every down back, so that's going to diminish his value. So he's closer to that 5th round range. You may even be able to get him in the 6th round. Who knows? I still think that everything is going to be condensed into that 3rd to 5th round range at running back. But it just depends on when that party starts. I say the party starts in the 3rd round because it's going to be somebody that gets antsy and decides to jump up and take Jalen Wright. I think he's going to end up being the first running back off the board because he's healthy and he runs 3 whatever, 4.2 whatever, 40, and it's blazing speed. But once whomever breaks the seal on running back, whenever that happens, that's when the clock starts. And the sooner that starts, the sooner you have to get a guy like Keelan Robinson. The later that starts, the later you can draft a Keelan Robinson. Right now, my guess is late 4th, 5th round pick, Keelan Robinson. He may go in the 6th round. Just depends on if the party don't start to the 4th round, he's more of a 6th round pick then. I think that party's going to start in the 3rd, and that's going to make him more of a 5th, but he could last to the 6th round. Tony P 56. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Tony P writes, what up, Lou? You getting a P.O. box this year? You know what's crazy, Tony? I kid you not, bro. I literally had a P.O. box conversation with my wife today. I'm not bullshitting you. Literally had a P.O. box conversation. I think I'm going to get one again this year. I think it's almost becoming a necessity at this point. So, yes, I do think I'm going to get one. Video channel. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Video channel writes, you playing at Metro Future tonight? Probably not. If I go to the gym tonight, then I might get into it. But if I don't go to the gym, probably not. More likely than not. They just put out a project last week, though. They put out another one? They literally just put out a project last week. I could have sworn they just put out what is it? We Don't Trust You. Didn't they just put that out last week? Could have sworn that was already out. Anyway, Duncan Wright, I could have sworn you said you were gone. You told us good night and everything. what happened to that? Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you, my guy, Duncan. Right. Sorry, Lou, buzzed, but okay. There's my explanation. But you guys suck. Good night. Ha. Duncan, don't ever change, man. You are one of a kind. Do not change. Ever. My guy, Duncan Wright. Anyway, I digress. That is going to do it for me. Got another one here from Kevin. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy, Kevin, writes, people don't remember the AR to Jordy connection, Lou, shaking my head. I'm hoping you guys get May. Am I crazy for seeing Jordan Love in his film? Thoughts on K. Coleman? So I think a lot of people forgot about that AR to Jordy connection and how strong that thing was. That was something else, right? When they were at the peak of their superpowers, that shit was damn near unstoppable. And I think a lot of people forgot that little run in there, 2013, 14 is, I think, the height of their superpowers. 15, he was still nasty. Like, I think a lot of people forget just how good Jordy Nelson was and how in sync he and that was, see, a lot of people forget because of the music AR and Devontae made. They forget about Jordy, but before there was Devontae, it was Jordy Nelson, right? I don't know if I see Jordan Love. Jordan Love was different coming out of Utah State. Jordan Love was different. I saw more Aaron Rodgers in Jordan Love, which is why I felt like they drafted him, because they felt like he'd be the perfect. Like, I saw a lot of off-platform throws. I saw a guy that was out there trying to make it happen, you know, doing I don't see a lot of that same stuff with May, you know. You're not crazy, but Jordan Love was different. You know, he really, I don't see the Aaron Rodgers comparison to Drake May. I saw it immediately with Jordan Love. As far as Keon Coleman is concerned, he, to me, and I have Keon Coleman rated, what is he, 13th or 14th on my list? 15th on my list. He's 15th on my list. You know who he is at the NFL level? He's Jawan Jennings. If you want an NFL comp, that's exactly who he is. He's big. He's physical. He can make some crazy catches. I remember Jawan Jennings making a crazy one-handed catch, you know, in the playoffs. Remember, he made that catch against your Packers, as a matter of fact. Ridiculous one-hand grab. You could argue he was one of the unsung heroes of that game because, remember, Debo had gotten injured and somebody had to step up. And it was Jawan Jennings that stepped up. He made a one-handed catch against the Eagles on a touchdown where he caught it, made a dude miss, and you know, trolloped into the end zone, right? So you see Keon Coleman making these eye-popping catches. He's physical, but he is not fast, and he proved that at the combine. Ran a 4.63. He is not a tremendous route runner, right? He's not a separator, a true separator, but there are qualities that he brings to the table, right? And much like Juwan Jennings, there is a place for you in the NFL if you're big, you're physical, and you can catch the football. And Keon Coleman can do that. So somebody is going to get themselves a big body physical receiver that can go get the football, but don't expect a lot after he gets the football. Not a lot of run after catch. He's not a massive separator. His separation comes with his size and his frame and his ability to box you out and go get the football. So it's all in what you're looking for, right? All in what you're looking for. Jason Fios, thank you for being a member of the MOBB for 25 months, that 2-year threshold. Yo, Lou. So excited to just be talking draft and football. One receiver you didn't have on your list, the one out of Oregon. Your thoughts? You're talking about Franklin. Troy Franklin is not one of my favorite receivers in this draft. A lot of people like Troy Franklin. I'm not a big Troy Franklin fan. You know, I have him rated as my 10th best receiver. A lot of people have him in their top 5. Some people have him in their top. Most people have him in their top 7. I don't. He's going to have to prove it to me. He was very productive at Oregon. I'm not going to hold that against him. That Oregon offense, again, it's not one of my favorite offenses. It's not the worst offense. It's not one of my favorites. But he was highly productive, and I can't knock the hustle. But he's one of those tall, lanky guys that can run, that he doesn't love physicality. He's going to be challenged at the next level. He can run. And that's the thing you can't teach is speed. And if you can run, you can do some damage. But, like, he catches the ball, so he's not MVS. So I have him. My comp for him is Tyquan Thornton. And you go, who? Exactly. Another guy. Same height, same speed, essentially, out of Baylor. 2 years ago in the draft, I thought New England overdrafted him. I said it in a moment, out of Baylor. Have you heard from Tyquan Thornton? I damn sure haven't. I think we're going to be saying the same thing about Troy Franklin 2-3 years from now. But I could be wrong about him because he definitely has the speed. He's got the production. And there's some stuff to him, but he's not my cup of tea. He doesn't move the needle for me. You know, he could easily be one of these Darius Slayton types, right? With all kinds of speed, but you know, we see these guys like him. To me, they come a dime a dozen. You know, and he's so light. We're talking about like a $176. What are we talking about? This dude is super small, lanky, like not physical at all, and his size says that. And in college, you don't get challenged a lot when you're super fast like he was. And in that Oregon offense where it's wide open and you're creating all this space for your receivers and run after the catch opportunity, it was easy for him to eat. I want to see him do it where somebody's going to get in his face, delete the airspace, where guys are going to be physical with him at the point of catch. Let's try that shit on the train. And if he can do it, then he'll earn my respect. I just don't see it translating yet. We'll see. I know a lot of people who love Troy Franklin. I'm not one of them. So anyway, I digress. That's going to do it for me, your man Louie T, here on Commanders. I'm about to say Nightly News. The Command Post live. You know what it is. Post up. Take command. Until next time, you guys have a good one. So the schedule tomorrow is going to probably be a light day. You may get something from me tomorrow. more likely than not, you probably won't. And then Saturday, I will have something for you on Saturday. And that'll probably be my cornerback top 7 list heading into the weekend. And then next week, we're going to hit the draft pretty damn hard because it's the last full week without the draft. And then obviously the week after that, it's go time, right? It's go time. So I'll drop that cornerback video over the weekend. We'll come back Monday and we'll pretty much hit the ground running at that point. And we may have a different position every single day next week. Try to get through as many positions as we can prior to the draft. And I know we're going to hit edge rusher. We're going to hit tight end. Edge rusher, tight end, and corner are going to be the next positions. And like I said, corner, it'll be over the weekend. So be on the lookout for that. And yeah, you're coming down home stretch. Bart Scott. Can't wait. Until next time, you guys enjoy your weekend. You know, if anything transpires, you're going to see this face all up in your space. Until then, enjoy the rest of your evening. Enjoy your weekend if I don't see you again before then. And I'll see you guys on the other side. Take care. God bless. Good night.